Welcome to Dr Joe Unplugged. This podcast contains general information and is not in any way medical advice. Most of us enjoy a cup of coffee, but sometimes we wonder, is it good or bad for us? In a lot of respects, it's probably neither from a pure health perspective. There have been studies at times that have suggested negative effects from coffee, but more recently, a growing number of studies are suggesting there may be health benefits from coffee. I think at the very outset, I want to make the point that if you don't like drinking coffee, there really is no case to be made for taking it up for the health effects. In a similar way, there's been some work that shows that a glass of red wine may be beneficial. It may give some protection from cardiovascular disease. Some studies have said yes, some have said no. Again, it's essentially don't take it up if you don't enjoy it. You cannot justify it on medical grounds. But if you did enjoy it, then maybe it is doing you some good and you don't have to stress about it. So this study, which was done from the Imperial College London in the UK and the University of Copenhagen in Denmark, have looked at circulating caffeine levels in the bloodstream and looked at the effects or the correlations, perhaps more correctly, with obesity and osteoarthritis. Those two conditions also have a connection in that if people are overweight or carrying more weight, it, not surprisingly, puts more load on the joints, and people may be more likely to develop osteoarthritis in especially the hips, the knees, and the low back. Again, it's not saying that everybody who's carrying excess weight gets it or that it's impossible to develop osteoarthritis if you're in a healthy weight range. But yes, there is the connection between weight and osteoarthritis. So this study looked at circulating levels of caffeine in the bloodstream, which is an interesting thing to do, and I've not personally seen a study previously which has done this. Generally, studies looking at any health impacts of coffee do surveys. They ask people about how much or how little coffee they drink. They get them to do a questionnaire about various health issues and then make a correlation. And as we've discussed previously, correlation is not causation. They often try to rule out other factors that might be at play, but essentially observational studies do have a value, but also they're not conclusive. But studying actual blood levels of caffeine is taking it to the next step. Even so, it's not necessarily complete correlation being causation. So there's no causative mechanism has been found to explain why slightly higher levels of caffeine in the bloodstream may be associated with lower rates of obesity and in turn osteoarthritis. Let's do the second one first. It's maybe a little bit easier. Osteoarthritis does have an inflammatory component. And it's typically been thought over the years that inflammatory arthritis, for example, rheumatoid arthritis or psoriatic arthritis, is an inflammatory condition, whereas osteoarthritis is straight up wear and tear and degeneration. There is a degeneration component to osteoarthritis, and it's very fair to say we don't see it in babies or young children, but it's not entirely wear and tear and degeneration. There does increasingly seem to be an inflammatory component. Caffeine is not of itself a strong antioxidant, but people who are drinking coffee don't just get the caffeine, they get the other components, and we do know that there are some flavonols which are antioxidants and other components in coffee, similar to green tea, in fact other tea as well, which may have an anti-inflammatory effect, and this could contribute towards the effect of osteoarthritis. Caffeine is a very, very mild stimulant. Now, we also know some people are more sensitive to the effects of coffee than others. Some people, if they drink coffee after 2 or 3 in the afternoon, other people might be 7 o'clock at night, find it harder to get to sleep. Some people, it doesn't affect them at all, but it can be a mild stimulant if you drink too much. And again, how much is too much depends on the individual. There's no set amount. I think we could all agree 20 cups of coffee a day is probably too much. And some of those people may get tremor or shakes from the caffeine. And if people are drinking a lot of coffee, they can sometimes get a slight tremor as a withdrawal effect. But it could be that the caffeine is a mild stimulant in terms of metabolism, and if your metabolism is stimulated to some degree, then you may burn up more calories. There could be other confounders at play. Maybe people drinking the coffee do so after a bike ride, or maybe they get out and about a little bit more and they're walking to their local coffee shop. Again, none of this is known. We can speculate. Not sure speculation is overly helpful. But essentially, what this has found is that slightly higher levels of circulating caffeine, and the estimate was in the order of 2 to 3 cups a day, keeping in mind that strength of coffee is going to vary, how quickly it's absorbed is going to vary, how quickly it's processed within your own body is going to vary. For some people, it will get out of their system sooner than others. Part of this work looked at genetic factors that can influence metabolism of coffee and caffeine. Ultimately, there's not really there's nothing we can do about our genetics. But ultimately, the take-home message from all of this is not, right, if I drink a couple of cups of coffee every day, that's going to stop me getting osteoarthritis or putting on weight. No, that is absolutely not the case. As part of an overall package of looking after your health, can you have a few cups of coffee per day? And number one, enjoy it, which is the main thing. And there are also social components to coffee, especially if you go to a local cafe, if you go regularly, they get to know you, you get to know them. You can rock up at the till and they already know what you're going to order because it's your regular. You may also meet people for a cup of coffee, and socialising is very, very good for our health. We know that. And, you might even find that you start chatting with people in the line who you see on a regular basis. So there are all those benefits. But you certainly don't need to worry about coffee. And I think that's more the key take-home message, that people sometimes think, if I'm drinking coffee, is that a problem? No, it is not a problem if you are having a few cups a day. And I don't want to put a specific number on what constitutes a few because it's different for different people. Be guided by what works for you and what is agreeable to you. It's absolutely not doing you any harm. It may be doing you a little bit of good. Don't think we can really say that based on this study. But if it is, that's a bonus. It's not the reason to drink coffee, but certainly, and I think it's really important, we do need to be enjoying our life. Coffee is a beverage that we can enjoy, and you can do that and think to yourself, look, in addition to my enjoyment, this may be doing me a little bit of good. Worst case scenario, it isn't. No harm, no problems at all. Best case scenario, it is. Bonus, happy days. Thanks for listening to Dr. Joe Unplugged. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, and share. You can also follow it on all the socials. There'll be new content uploaded each week.